Joining us right now is Stephen J.J. Weisman, attorney and professor at Bentley University, to talk about these matters of our privacy and our security. Thanks for being with us, Professor.
Always good to be with you.
All right, so let's talk about this. What do you think about Edward Snowden's comments about Facebook, Google, and Dropbox? I guess we kind of know that everybody's watching everything we do online, but we kind of have to use these things, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's more a matter of being aware. It was kind of interesting when Snowden was first disclosing how much surveillance was done on Americans through the government. One of the things that was kind of missing was we're probably giving more information and being watched more closely by companies like Google and others who are collecting data on us. And in many instances, we've actually agreed to it. We may not realize we've agreed to it, but if you look at the fine print, and there's rarely anything in fine print, at so many of these things that we digitally sign in order to use companies like Google, like Facebook, we actually give them permission to use this big data really across the board for marketing purposes.
Well, Stephen, can you tell us what Dropbox is? I mean, I know what it is, but for our viewers who are not familiar with it and how it works, and really if it's dangerous as Snowden makes it out to be.
Well, you know, one of the big things, it's a way of storing in the cloud. And of course, another interesting thing is when people think of the cloud, that word, that metaphor makes it seem like it's somewhere up in the ether, and it isn't. These are being stored. The data we have is in physical places. And so when you start thinking of it like that, these physical places can be accessed by people from the outside or people from the inside. So there's a lot of issues in regard to particularly what we found with celebrities getting their phones hacked. We're not taking enough care. Just passwords and security questions aren't enough. And in fact, Apple with the cloud has a dual authentication option that many people don't take advantage of, that they really should, that would make things much safer.
Stephen, let's talk about encryption, because that's one of the things that he continually brings up, that these devices like Dropbox and Facebook and Google and whatnot, that they do not support encryption. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, you know, I don't agree with that. And in fact, after Snowden made his allegations, Dropbox did indicate that they do have encryption. And I think this is one of the big things. Encryption is critical today because there are so many places that our personal information can be grabbed by hackers. When the internet was first being designed, there was never the security concern, so this wasn't built in. So now it's up to us, and we should have encryption. We should have encryption on our computers, on our laptops, on our smartphones. A lot of us don't even have passwords on our smartphones, let alone encryption, but we should.
Well, there you have it. Of course, some of the irony surrounding the Snowden warning came from the fact that he was making it during a Google Hangout, but we'll leave that there. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about another story that's in the news now. Russian gangs are allegedly planning to steal $1 billion from financial institutions. This report comes from secret listening on the internet in chat rooms by European police services. Stephen, is there any validity to this? And for once, I guess we're hearing about a breach before it actually happens.
Yeah, how about that for a surprise? Yeah, I think this is one of these things that this is coming from Europol, and Europol is a very legitimate source. Interestingly enough, so many of the world hackings we're seeing come down to about 100 criminal geniuses, most of them in Russia and the Ukraine. What they often do is they build the malware, they put that up online on black market websites where they sell it to other cyber criminals who take advantage of it. But this one is particularly troublesome, particularly coming on the heels of what happened at JP Morgan, because it does appear it's a very, very complicated kind of bank heist that they're doing, something like out of the movies. But it's possible. It also involves and requires insiders to be working on this. So this is something about which we really do have to be very, very concerned. And the banks and the government are going to have to work together because they have not been doing this enough.
Well, simple question for you. Do you feel like the banks and security firms and even the government will ever be able to get ahead of these hackers, because they always seem to be one step ahead?
Yeah, it does seem that way, and so far it has been. But I hope it doesn't take a cyber 9/11. But for instance, Israel, which has always been under cyber attack, has a very good format for working together between government and private industry, and that's what we need. We really need the government to take this seriously and private industry to cooperate, work together on this. I think we can put ourselves in a position where we're going to be much, much safer than we are today.
Stephen, one of the methods that might be used by the gang is called a Trojan attack. Can you explain what exactly that is and how it works?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that, Miranda, because here's one of the things for all of these really complicated malware that is required to do these attacks and heists. They are inserted into the company's computers in a very old-fashioned way we call of spear phishing. And think of this, the Trojan, as like the Trojan horse. An email is sent to perhaps someone at JP Morgan Chase, and it appears to be coming from one of their supervisors. So they click on a link in there. That click on the link brings in the malware. And this is what has happened in absolutely every one of these major hackings, whether it's from a third-party vendor or an employee right within the company. They click on links, they download these Trojans that have the malware in them that allow these criminals to do their work. And so the key thing is, if we could forget about the complexity of the malware, just train our employees not to click on links, not to download attachments unless they've actually gone through a second confirmation that they're legitimate, we could stop all this.
All right, a little bit more encryption can go a long way to keeping us all safe. Stephen J.J. Weisman, thanks so much for being with us. These are important issues, and hopefully you're right. It won't take a cyber 9/11 to get any kind of serious action and for these banks and governments to get ahead of this stuff.
Great talking with you.
All right, much more to come here following this Newsmax Now update.